Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Annette and this is the fifth episode of the series Behind Papers, where we try to understand together how research works and how the academic environment works. This is the fifth episode, as I said, and in the previous episodes we discussed about the research process, a qualitative research strategy, the quantitative research strategy, how you conduct a research and things like that. So if you missed that part and you're interested, just go back and watch the other videos. While now we start with another part, which is going to be about how we analyze data. And how I've been doing for the other videos. I'm not going too much into details because the series is not about teaching specifically how to conduct a research and all the variables that are part of the research process. First, because I still don't have that much knowledge to do that, and second of all, because that's really not the goal of this series. The goal is to bring awareness to the fact that the research and the research environment and how people conduct research is so much complex, and there are so many elements to take into consideration. So that we can be aware of the fact that the information and the knowledge that circulates is not always the truth, right? So of course we need to trust people that conduct research, in the sense that we at a certain point need to make a decision and be like, okay, I do believe or I do not believe this information, and we hope that most of the people that conduct research do that in the best interest of people. It doesn't always occur. We'll talk about that in the final part of this series, where we talk about the academia environment, and we are going to analyze few researches together, few research studies. But yeah, the goal of the series, I was saying, is that we are aware of all the variables and how much human influence there is in the research process, how many decisions researchers have to make, so that we cannot take the knowledge that circulates as being like completely objective or without any faults, and so that we are not there only to say like, oh, this is a mistake, this is like this, and so with that we are not there only to criticize the work of other people and be like, oh, everything is wrong or things like that, but that we can contribute to society and trying to discuss together specific topics. So with that being said, if you're interested about what I'm going to talk about now, please keep watching the video after the intro. Welcome back everyone, my name is Annette and I'm here to help people to develop an independent interpretation of reality and trying to understand together how spirituality works. So in this video we're going to discuss how to analyze qualitative data, so what comes next after we collect the data through a qualitative research strategy. It doesn't only apply to having conducted a qualitative research. There are different ways how we can collect data and then analyze data, but let's say that the standard process is that we conduct a qualitative research and then we are going to analyze data through qualitative methods. So this video is going to be shorter than the next videos, when we are going to discuss about the quantitative analysis of data, because then we are going to discuss about statistics and also other methods, but especially statistics, which I think is the most important, because nowadays statistics has a huge impact on our life and how we create society and how we create our knowledge on society, because we read a lot of statistics online, on papers and things like that, and we often believe that because it's statistics say so, then it's the truth, right? But that's not really the case. We will see that in the next videos. And in this one, we are going to discuss qualitative analysis, which is a bit unstructured in the sense that differently from quantitative research analysis, where we have our statistical methods and things like that, we like specific rules to follow. When it comes to qualitative analysis, there are not as many rules, and it's a bit more free how we can interpret data. And also we will see when I try to explain the methods that they sound pretty similar and they sometimes are a bit blurry and confusing. I will try to do my best, and we will touch upon a couple of methods, like more specific methods, and then more like type of analysis. I mean, I think it's going to get clearer when I will explain them, but sometimes when I talk about methods of analysis, they seem like type of analysis and vice versa. So yeah, just stay with me, and as I said, I won't go deep into this topic, so it's just to have general knowledge, because I thought that it would have been a bit nonsense to go straight to the quantitative analysis and just keep this part. We can just say a couple of words on the topic and then move on to the next part. So let's start with what is considered to be the main strategy, the main way, the main method to analyze qualitative data, which is coding. So basically coding, we are going to create codes, right? We're going to make codes. And it means taking notes. Mainly it starts by taking notes when you're like collecting data. So for example, if you have a transcript of an interview, you are going to code the information and you're going to take notes on the side of the transcript, and you're going to make these notes for all of the material you need to analyze. And it's better to do it as quick as possible, like as soon as possible. So as soon as you are transcribing an interview, you start doing that, so that you are like, the information you collect are fresh, so that it's easier to make notes instead of like waiting and then you maybe don't remember what you were thinking or stuff like that. So it's better to do it as soon as possible. And also because usually you collect a lot of data, so it is also very time consuming, so it's better to stay on the top of your work and trying to do things quickly. So you take these notes, and then from those notes you're going to create codes. So you're going to see that a specific part of a transcript or things like that can be coded under a certain label, right? Can be like family and friends, for example, right? Or family and friends discussions. So you're going to create this label, which is the code, and you're going to see whether you can apply this code to other parts of your data, or whether you need to create new codes. And then once you have coded all the data you have, which allows to summarize the data, to reduce the amount of data you have, because from having like pages of information, you're going to have codes and pieces of those pages that are really important. And from there we are going to see whether some codes, maybe you coded a certain part, maybe you coded certain information under a specific label, under a specific code, and then you realize you can switch it up, so you are going to switch it up, and then you can see how they are related, if there are codes that are the opposite, or they are similar, or one is explains another code better and more in depth. So you're going to make these analyses, and it's going to give the possibility to create theoretical ideas, and basically you start to make your own conclusion in a way, and starting to create your theory. So this is like the basics you need to do, and it's what mostly people do when they want to analyze data, qualitative data. And then when you have those codes, it depends what you need to do. So I just wanted to explain this method, but then you either create a theory or you create something that is going to make a questionnaire, and then you're going to make a questionnaire and analyze those data, because qualitative research, as we said in the previous videos, can prepare the material for a questionnaire, for further interviews. It depends what you want to do. But yeah, this is like a method that is always basically used when analyzed qualitative data. And of course, this method has been criticized. We know that like everything, of course, that exists has critiques, and that's very important. And when it comes to coding, the critiques that are moved is that coding can lead to a lack of information, because of course you try to reduce the data and you're trying to keep what really matters, but maybe having in mind the goal of reducing data can lead to reduce data so much that you're going to lose important information, but also the fact that you lose the context, because maybe you're coding something under a certain label, but then you forget about what was the context surrounding the code. So then you're going to focus on that, and then when you're going to interpret data, when you're going to write your theory, when you're going to write your report, then it sounds different from what it would have sounded if you also included the context, right? So there is this risk. So the narrative can also seem a bit fragmented, because then you're going to make a conclusion based on codes, but you're just keeping certain parts. So it can be like the flow of the narrative is a bit lost. But despite that, it's still the main method. And to be honest, I wouldn't really find a different method to be the most important one, because despite we keep having to criticize and improve and things like that, I also do believe that sometimes academics or like people in research or this type of environment, they keep wanting to create something new, or like never thinking that something is enough. But then I'm like, what are you even suggesting, right? I mean, I do believe there are methods, there are things that these are the way we need to do things, because there's not another option. But of course, you need to do it consciously, and you need to improve what you're doing and be aware of being aware of the flows and things like that. But like, to me, it makes sense that if you want to analyze qualitative data, you code things, right? So critics say maybe it's not the best method, but I personally believe it's a great method. It's just that, as I said, you need to take in consideration the negative side. But to me, it's just like the only method we could use. The second method is called thematic analysis. So the word analysis, we are encountering this word also when we are going to discuss other points. And I'm going to say that because if I hear about, for example, narrative analysis, it gives like another sense. It seems more of like a specific type of material you're going to analyze. While if you use analysis in the word thematic analysis, it doesn't really feel that this is a method. So it would have been maybe better to call it thematic method. I don't know. I'm just saying what I've studied, so we could discuss like the name of these things. But we have thematic analysis, which is very similar to coding, and some people basically say that it's the same. The only difference is that themes are bigger than codes, so we could say that themes are codes put together. So if we have, I don't know, specific codes related to family would be like gatherings, I don't know, discussions or things. We could gather these codes under the main theme of family, for example. So this is, as I said, very similar. And when we want to search for themes, we should look at repetitions, we should look at indigenous expressions and metaphors, analogies, similarities and differences, or missing data or material that is related to specific theories. So we should look at specific elements so that we can create a theme. Third element we're going to talk about is analytic induction, and this is a type of analysis. So as I was trying to say before, we have methods which are more, how do you say, like specific ways of analyzing data, like more how you do that. And I would say like a type of analysis is where you want to get and why you're doing this type of analysis. I don't know if it's clear, but let me just explain. So for example, we have analytic induction. So what's the goal of this analysis? This analysis wants to analyze data and information to the point of finding out a theory that comes from data. So if you remember, we talk about deduction. So it's where from a theory we try to find elements that can confirm the theory. So we deduct the theory, we create first a theory and then we are going to confirm that. While with induction from the data, we create theory. Analytic induction means that from the data we have collected, we are going to analyze the data, and there we can use coding, for example. So it's the method, it's not like a type of analysis. And then we are going to find out the theory. So this type of analysis really wants to make connections to finding out whether there's a relationship between data, and really wants to go into details and really wants to elaborate a theory. So while, for example, with other types of analysis is just trying to make conclusions and trying to describe a phenomenon, then with analytic induction we want to create a theory. Of course, to use this type of analysis, it means that before we conducted research in a way that we can have a specific type of data. So maybe you're going to, I don't know, ask the same questions to everyone or things like that. So maybe it's harder if you want to create a theory from personal narratives, for example. Maybe it's easier if you conduct the same research for everyone. So you have already more detailed information and like organized information that you can work with. You're going to analyze the information and support the theory that is coming out until you find the negative element, like something that says, no, I'm actually sustaining the opposite. So the theory you created is not valid anymore. And the thing is, like, the issue is that analytic induction as a type of analysis doesn't state how many elements we need before we can decide whether a theory is valid or not. So if we would say we need 20 cases, and if in 20 cases everyone sustains the same, then it's okay, then we can validate the theory. But it doesn't say so. So when do we stop, right? So we might analyze 50 cases, and then the 60 was the case that was sustaining the opposite. So then we are supporting a theory which is not in the end correct. It's just that we stop early enough to keep sustaining the theory. There are not strict guidelines to understand where we can stop, where we need to go on, when we need to reformulate everything. So another type of qualitative analysis that can be conducted is the secondary analysis of qualitative data. So basically it means that you're going to take research that was conducted before, so you're going to take the same data and you are going to analyze them again later in time. So usually you use the same methods that have been used, it's just that you do it differently, like you do it again. And so it can also give, other insights that were not found in the first analysis. The problem is that if you are going to make an analysis years later, then you're going to lose the context where data were collected and like the environment and stuff like that, the surroundings of the data. This is very difficult if someone is doing a secondary analysis on their own data. So imagine if other researchers are doing this type of analysis with data collected by other researchers. Of course, it is a method, it is a type of analysis that has a lot of potential, because even if you use a different methods to analyze the data, even if you use the same or another method, you really can find things that you didn't find before. So it's very interesting as a type of analysis. Another issue, by the way, is that probably data, if you take like maybe, I don't know, research that was conducted 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and maybe there weren't the same privacy policies, then might happen that some data were collected without the consent of the participants. So then if you are going to conduct a secondary analysis and then maybe you are going to publish that, then can create, ethical issues and problems, because maybe the first time it was unseen or it was just left like that. But then if you're taking, like if you are bringing back to life data that were not consensual, then from people that were not consensual, then of course can rise issues. Another type of analysis is the meta-analysis. You probably have heard that. It's quite popular as a type of analysis and is also used for quantitative data. So what is meta-analysis is basically when you take several studies under the same domain, under the same topic, and you want to summarize them and you want to make a kind of a generalization, or like trying to make like a big study out of these studies. Usually this is what happens with quantitative analysis. When it comes to qualitative analysis, we have two types of meta-analysis. The first one being meta-ethnography and the second one being thematic synthesis. When it comes to the meta-ethnography, is basically the counterpart of meta-analysis in quantitative research, because then you're going to take several ethnographic studies and you're going to make something out of them, right? Differently from the meta-analysis, you're not going to summarize the studies in order to have generalization, like big conclusions or things like that, but you're going to trying to translate one study into the other. So basically trying to see which are the similarities, which are the differences, if there's something in between, trying to compare them instead of like summarizing them. And in order to have a bigger perspective, the issue is that when it comes to ethnographies, they are not raw data. So they're like ethnographies are the end product of research. So there are already interpretations, analyses that have been made and things like that. So while, for example, when we do the meta-analysis with quantitative data, if you have a quantitative study, you always have to report the analysis you did, the statistics and things like that, so you can take those data and interpret them again. While with ethnography, usually doesn't happen, if never, like you can't really publish all the interviews you transcribed or things like that, or actually nobody does that. So you're working on material that has been already interpreted, right? So the issue is that you are making interpretation on other interpretations, and of course, it can create, it can like interrupt the correctness of data and it can like lead issues, right, in what the participants really said, right? And yes, so to solve this issue would be better to have like a group of researchers trying to do this meta-ethnography so that you can have more perspectives together. But it's still very interesting, but it has these type of issues. The thematic synthesis basically works, as we are saying, because it's a meta-analysis, it's a type of meta-analysis. We're going to conduct a thematic analysis on studies. So it means that before we were like conducting a thematic analysis on raw data, while here we have to first create a research question, which is going to lead how we are going to thematically analyzing the case studies. So first we're going to keep or eliminate specific studies based on what is the research question, and then we are going to conduct this thematic analysis on the study, so on the results, right? And from there you create another, you create a new study, a new conclusion. It is basically a secondary thematic analysis that you can conduct. The last element we are going to discuss is grounded theory. I left it last because it's widely discussed, it's widely debated, in the sense that there are different opinions on what grounded theory really is. Some people say it's a theory, some people say, which I don't really understand what they mean by that, but like some people say it's a way to create concepts, to create categories. Some people say it's a way to analyze data. I mean, it's very debated. So I would say, I would describe grounded theory as an iterative process to create a theory. So as we said, for example, for analytic induction, we were creating a theory from the data we collected, but it was mostly a straightforward process, right? So we had data, we analyzed them, we see whether there is a theory coming out of them, and that's it, right? While when it comes to grounded theory, it's more of an iterative process. So we have the same process of like collecting data, analyzing data, creating a theory, but it's really takes in consideration whether there is something that needs to be further explored. So then you go back, collect more data, and analyze them again and see how you can compare this new data with the older one and things like that, older ones and things like that. So it's kind of like, it's nothing new under the sun, I would say, but what characterizes this type of analysis, that it's really like strict in the process, and it's really like iterative. So you often go back to the beginning and do it again and things like that. So usually it's considered to be the best type of analysis, in the sense that you want to be as objective as possible, as concrete as possible, having as many data as possible, analyze and things like that, so that you can create a solid theory. The thing is, like, it's very time consuming because you can start all over again, and it takes time, it takes money, it takes effort. So usually people just analyze data and come to a conclusion and don't really kind of question whether there is something that doesn't really sound right, or maybe they mention, oh, this part is not clear, more research should be done on that, while maybe with grounded theory you actually are going to do that further research. So this is the end of this video. I hope it's clear. What we can say is that overall qualitative research analysis uses coding, uses themes. So then you're going to divide to create kind of an organization in the material you collected, and trying to divide this material into parts under a label. And you can analyze different types of material, such as narrations, interviews, or things like that. And the goal can be different, either having like a strong theory or just come to conclusions. And you can also conduct a secondary analysis by making a study on previous studies and things like that. I think there's not a lot to add. It's just that, as we can understand, there is a lot of human influence, because like the way you code stuff, you give the names, and then can give a type of message instead of another, what you code under that label, how you interpret those data and things like that. So there is a lot of subjectivity involved, I would say, but still I think it's useful. I think when we read qualitative studies, we need to be aware of that they are actually qualitative studies. So we cannot really expect the same results as with quantitative analysis or quantitative research, but it's still a great tool for our society. So with that being said, the next videos are going to be about quantitative analysis And in particular, we will focus on statistics, and I think that part will take a couple of videos, maybe even 3 parts. But yeah, so with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you also enjoying the rest of the videos, that you find the topic interesting, and I'm always here to discuss if you would like to. I would ask you if you want to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so that you won't miss any other video. I always remember you, I have an Instagram page that I'm going to write down here. I also have my personal page, but you will find the link in my Instagram page, Integrated Spirituality. So yeah, with that being said, I see you in the next video. Bye!